The unexamined life is not worth living, Socrates declared, but here's what most people miss. Examination without action is just mental entertainment. Right now, as you watch this video, there's a conversation happening in your head. Maybe it's replaying yesterday's embarrassing moment, catastrophizing about tomorrow's presentation, or simply judging these very words. That internal chatter has been running your life for too long. Ancient Stoics discovered something revolutionary that neuroscience now confirms. You are not your thoughts. You're the consciousness observing them. You're the one with the power to decide which thoughts deserve your energy and which deserve to be dismissed like uninvited guests at a party. But here's where most people get stuck. They read inspirational quotes on Instagram, feel motivated for exactly 7 minutes, then slip back into their old patterns. Knowledge without application is just sophisticated procrastination. Today we're going beyond feel-good philosophy into 8 battle-tested strategies that have helped humans navigate chaos for over 2 millennia. The Stoics understood something that modern self-help often misses. True control comes not from managing your circumstances, but from mastering your responses. When you organize your inner world, when you learn to operate from calm clarity rather than emotional reactivity, everything else begins to align. What makes Stoicism uniquely powerful is that it works in silence. You don't need to announce your transformation on social media or wait for perfect conditions. These principles work quietly, one decision at a time, one thought at a time, one day at a time. Before we dive in, if you believe in growth and inner power, hit that like button and subscribe. Drop this affirmation in the comments. I take control of my life in silence. Let's begin this journey inward. Number 1. The dichotomy of control. Stop fighting unwinnable battles. The foundation of Stoic wisdom rests on one deceptively simple concept. Some things are within your control, others are not. Epictetus, who understood powerlessness as a former slave, taught that wealth consists not in having great possessions, but in having few wants. This principle extends far beyond material goods. It's about understanding where your actual power resides. Make a mental inventory of everything currently stressing you out. Your boss's unpredictable moods, your teenager's life choices, economic uncertainty, your extended family's opinions about your career, tomorrow's weather, how attractive others find you. Here's the uncomfortable truth. You have precisely zero control over any of these things. Yet, how much mental real estate do they occupy? Now consider what you control completely. Your thoughts about these situations, your emotional responses, your decisions about how to act, the effort you invest, the values you choose to embody, and the meaning you assign to events. This is your domain of sovereignty, and it's more expansive than you realize. The magic happens when you redirect energy from unwinnable battles. Consider how much mental bandwidth you've wasted trying to control others' opinions, manipulate someone's behavior, or prevent every possible negative outcome. That energy is precious currency that, when invested in your actual sphere of influence, yields exponential returns. Marcus Aurelius, who ruled an empire while maintaining inner peace, reminded himself daily, confine yourself to the present. The present moment is where your control lives. The past is sealed, the future remains unwritten. But right now, in this moment, you have complete authority over your breath, your posture, your next word, your next action. Here's your practical implementation. Create 2 columns labeled My Control and Not My Control. For the next week, every time you feel stressed, categorize what's triggering that feeling. For anything in your control column, take 1 concrete action. For anything outside your control, practice acceptance and let it go. You'll discover something remarkable. Anxiety decreases because you're no longer fighting impossible battles. Effectiveness increases because you're focusing energy where it actually creates change. Relationships improve because you're no longer trying to control others. And self-confidence grows because you're finally exercising your true power. Living according to this principle isn't passive resignation, it's strategic focus. When you align your efforts with what you can actually influence, you become unstoppable in the areas that matter most. Number 2. The view from above. Gain cosmic perspective. Marcus Aurelius wrote these words while dealing with plagues, wars, and betrayals. You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. He discovered that changing your perspective literally changes your reality. This second strategy teaches you to zoom out and see challenges from a broader vantage point. Picture yourself right now in this moment. Now mentally zoom out to see yourself in your current location, then your neighborhood, city, state, country, continent. Keep expanding. See Earth floating in space, our solar system, our galaxy, among billions of others. From this cosmic perspective, how significant does your current worry actually appear? This isn't about minimizing legitimate problems or pretending difficulties don't matter. It's about right-sizing them so you can respond with clarity instead of being overwhelmed by emotional intensity. When you're trapped inside a problem, it feels like the entire universe. When you step back, solutions often become visible that were completely hidden from ground level. Ancient Stoics called this the view from above, and modern neuroscience validates its effectiveness. When you mentally step outside your situation and observe it as if advising a friend, your prefrontal cortex, responsible for rational thinking, becomes more active while your amygdala, the brain's fear center, calms down. This neurological shift literally alters how you process information. Seneca practiced this daily, understanding that most suffering comes not from what happens to us, but from the stories we tell ourselves about what happens. The view from above reveals these stories as just one possible interpretation of events, not absolute truth. Next time you face a challenging situation, ask yourself, how will this matter in 5 years? What advice would I give my best friend facing this exact scenario? If I were watching this happen to someone else in a movie, what would I think they should do? What opportunity might be hidden in this challenge that I can't see from up close? William James noted, "The greatest weapon against stress is our ability to choose one thought over another." The view from above gives you that choice. Instead of being trapped in emotional intensity, you can consciously choose a broader, more balanced perspective. Practice this daily. When stuck in traffic, zoom out. When someone triggers you, zoom out. When worried about money or relationships, zoom out, not to escape reality, but to see it more clearly. This builds emotional resilience over time. The more you train yourself to step outside problems, the less those problems control you. Drop this affirmation in the comments. I choose perspective over panic in every situation. Number 3. The obstacle as the path. Transform resistance into strength. The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way, Marcus Aurelius wrote, introducing one of Stoicism's most transformative concepts. Every obstacle isn't just something to overcome. It's actually the curriculum for becoming who you need to become. This strategy completely reframes how you view challenges. Consider how muscles grow. They only strengthen when facing resistance. Without challenge, they atrophy. Your character, skills, and resilience operate identically. The obstacles in your life aren't random punishments or evidence you're on the wrong path. They're precisely the resistance required to develop strength for your next level of growth. Right now, identify something in your life that feels like a roadblock. Perhaps financial strain, a difficult relationship, health challenges, career setbacks, or personal limitations. Traditional thinking sees these as negative forces to eliminate or avoid. Stoic thinking is radically different. View them as information, training, and the exact curriculum needed for development. Ryan Holiday, drawing from Marcus Aurelius, teaches, "There is no good or bad without us. There is only perception. There is the event itself and the story we tell ourselves about what it means." Every obstacle contains seeds of equivalent or greater benefit, but only when you're willing to work with it rather than against it. Consider this example. You lose your job unexpectedly. The immediate emotional response might be fear, anger, or shame. But what if this obstacle is redirecting you toward work more aligned with your values? What if it's forcing you to develop skills you'd never learn otherwise? What if it's teaching financial discipline, revealing your true support network, or providing the push needed to start that business you've been contemplating? The obstacle doesn't change, but transforming your relationship to it changes everything. Instead of asking, "Why is this happening to me?" you ask, "What is this here to teach me? How can I use this to become stronger or more skilled? What opportunity is hidden within this challenge?" James Stockdale, a Navy admiral who survived years of torture as a prisoner of war, credited Stoic philosophy with his survival. He said, "You must never confuse faith that you will prevail, which you can never afford to lose, with the discipline to confront the most brutal facts of your current reality. Reframe your biggest current challenge as a training program. If it involves a difficult person, they're training you in patience, boundary setting, or communication. Financial struggles train resourcefulness, prioritization, and discipline. Health issues train self-care, resilience, and clarity about what truly matters. This isn't about pretending obstacles don't hurt. Some are genuinely painful and difficult. But even in legitimate hardship, you have a choice. Be destroyed by the obstacle or be forged by it. Start small. Next time you hit traffic, use it as patience training. When technology malfunctions, practice problem-solving and adaptability. When someone criticizes you, train emotional regulation and self-reflection. Every small obstacle becomes a repetition in life's gymnasium. The more you practice this mindset, the more you'll notice that obstacles often redirect you toward better outcomes than originally planned. That rejection led to a superior opportunity. That failure taught something crucial. That difficult period strengthened relationships or clarified priorities. Drop this affirmation in the comments. Every obstacle is my training ground. Number 4. Negative visualization, the counterintuitive path to gratitude. Nothing, to my way of thinking, is a better proof of a well-ordered mind than a man's ability to stop just where he is and pass some time in his own company, Seneca wrote. He also taught something counterintuitive, regularly imagining loss. This fourth strategy, premeditatio malorum, or negative visualization, isn't pessimism. It's building unshakable gratitude and emotional resilience by mentally preparing for life's inevitable changes. Look around you right now. Notice the people in your life, your health, your home, your abilities, your opportunities. These feel permanent, don't they? They seem like they'll always exist. But Stoics understood a fundamental truth most people avoid. Everything you have is temporary, not to frighten you, but to awaken you to this moment's preciousness. Negative visualization isn't dwelling on worst-case scenarios or attracting misfortune through pessimistic thinking. It's periodically imagining the loss of valued things so you can appreciate them more fully while present and be emotionally prepared if circumstances change. It's the difference between being blindsided by loss and meeting it with grace. Marcus Aurelius practiced this daily, writing, "Loss is nothing else but change, and change is nature's delight." He would imagine losing his imperial position, his health, even his life, not for self-torture, but to remember these things were borrowed from the universe. This practice generated deeper gratitude for each day and reduced attachment to outcomes beyond his control. Here's practical application. Once weekly, spend a few minutes imagining life without something currently taken for granted. What if you couldn't see this beautiful world? How much more vibrant would colors appear today? What if you couldn't walk? How much more would you appreciate each step? What if you lost your job tomorrow? What skills and relationships would you rely on? What if a loved one disappeared from your life? How much more present would you be in your next conversation with them? This isn't morbid thinking, it's realistic thinking. These changes will eventually happen to everyone. The question is whether you'll be completely unprepared and devastated, or whether you'll have built emotional resilience to handle life's inevitable transitions with dignity. Something profound happens when you practice negative visualization regularly. You start noticing ordinary miracles everywhere. Morning coffee tastes richer when you realize you might not always enjoy it. Your partner's laugh becomes more precious when you remember nothing lasts forever. Your health feels more valuable when you imagine losing it. Epictetus, who experienced genuine loss as a disabled slave, taught, "He is a wise man who does not grieve for the things which he has not, but rejoices for those which he has." Negative visualization trains this wisdom. Instead of constantly focusing on what you lack, you develop deep appreciation for what exists. This practice also prepares you emotionally for actual loss. When you've mentally rehearsed different scenarios, you're not starting from zero if difficulties arise. You've already considered how you might respond, what resources you could access, what matters most. You become emotionally anti-fragile, not just able to handle challenges, but able to grow stronger through them. Tonight, before sleeping, spend 2 minutes imagining life without one thing you're grateful for. Tomorrow, choose something different. Notice how this affects your appreciation and presence throughout the day. Notice how much more intentional you become with time and relationships. This isn't about living in fear or becoming pessimistic. It's about living with wisdom. When you stop taking things for granted, you show up differently. You hug longer, listen more deeply, complain less, appreciate more. Number 5, evening reflection. Become your own life coach. Every day offers a complete cycle of learning, growth, and renewal, yet most people let valuable insights slip away without extraction. The 5th strategy is perhaps the most practical, evening reflection, where you deliberately examine your day to extract wisdom and set intentions for tomorrow. This single habit accelerates personal growth more than almost any other practice. Seneca ended every day conducting what he called a personal audit. When the lamp is taken away and my wife has fallen silent, I examine the whole day and go back over what I've done and said, hiding nothing from myself, passing nothing by. This wasn't self-torture or harsh judgment. It was the practice of someone committed to continuous improvement. Most people end their days collapsing into mindless entertainment or social media scrolling. They let experiences pass by without processing them into wisdom. It's like having access to a gold mine but never bothering to extract the gold. Transform your evenings into powerful growth tools by spending 10 minutes asking these 4 questions. What did I do well today that I want to repeat? What did I do poorly that I want to improve tomorrow? What did I learn about myself, others, or life in general? What am I most grateful for from today? This practice is powerful because you're not just reviewing, you're learning. When identifying what you did well, you reinforce positive patterns and build confidence. When identifying areas for improvement, you take ownership and set clear growth intentions. When extracting lessons, you transform experiences into wisdom. When identifying gratitude, you train your brain to notice the positive. Marcus Aurelius filled journals with these evening reflections, which became his famous meditations. He wrote, "At dawn, when you have trouble getting out of bed, tell yourself, 'I have to go to work as a human being.'" His evening reflections helped him remember his purpose and prepare mentally for the next day's challenges. Here's a specific example of this process in action. Let's say you had an argument today. Instead of just feeling bad and moving on, use evening reflection to dig deeper. What triggered you? What could you have done differently? What did this reveal about your values or boundaries? How can you approach similar situations better? What can you learn about the other person's perspective? This single argument becomes a masterclass in communication and emotional intelligence, or perhaps you accomplished something you're proud of. Instead of just feeling good and forgetting, analyze what made it possible. What mindset did you bring? Which actions were most effective? How can you replicate this success? What strengths did you utilize? This success becomes a template for future achievements. Evening reflection also serves another crucial purpose. It helps you sleep better. When you process the day's events consciously, your subconscious doesn't need to keep churning through unresolved thoughts and emotions. You literally put the day to rest by examining it deliberately. Here's your practical system. Keep a notebook by your bed. Every evening, write down one thing you did well, one thing you want to improve, one thing you learned, and one thing you're grateful for. Don't write essays. A sentence or two for each is sufficient. The magic isn't in the writing, it's in the thinking the writing forces. As Cicero observed, the life of the dead is placed in the memory of the living. Your evening reflections become a record of your growth, a testament to your commitment to improvement. Over time, you'll identify patterns. What consistently creates fulfillment? Which triggers need attention? What environments bring out your best? This practice builds invaluable self-awareness. Most people live on autopilot, reacting without understanding their patterns. Evening reflection makes you the scientist of your own life. You discover what works and what doesn't, what aligns with your values and what takes you off track. After 1 week of evening reflections, you'll notice increased intentionality. After a month, you'll be amazed at your improved effectiveness. After a year, you'll have a complete record of growth that becomes increasingly valuable over time. Drop this affirmation in the comments. I grow stronger and wiser with each day. Number 6. The sacred pause, mastering the space between stimulus and response. Viktor Frankl discovered in concentration camps, between stimulus and response, there is a space. In that space is our power to choose our response. In our response lies our growth and our freedom. The Stoics taught this principle centuries earlier. The sixth strategy involves finding and expanding that crucial moment between what happens to you and how you react. This space is where your deepest power resides. Right now, someone could say something triggering, and you might react instantly with anger, defensiveness, or hurt. That reaction feels automatic, inevitable. But that's an illusion. There's always space, even microseconds, between trigger and response. Stoics trained themselves to find that space and use it consciously. Epictetus taught, it's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters. This aligns with neuroscience. Between the moment your brain registers a stimulus and your response, multiple neural pathways fire. Most people let the fastest, most primitive pathway, fight or flight, determine their reaction. but you can train yourself to engage your prefrontal cortex, responsible for rational decision-making. Consider the last time someone cut you off in traffic. The stimulus was clear, but your response was chosen, even if it didn't feel that way. You could have chosen anger and spent 10 minutes fuming. You could have chosen curiosity, wondering what emergency they might be rushing toward. You could have chosen compassion, sending good thoughts for their safety. Same stimulus, completely different responses, each creating different internal experiences and outcomes. This space between stimulus and response is where emotional freedom lives. When you react automatically, external circumstances control you. When you respond consciously, you exercise your deepest human capacity, choosing your attitude and actions regardless of surrounding circumstances. Marcus Aurelius practiced this daily, reminding himself, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." He would often pause before responding to challenging situations, asking what response would be most virtuous, effective, and aligned with his values. This pause provided access to wisdom that knee-jerk reactions never could. Here's skill development. Start with low-stakes situations. When someone makes a comment that usually triggers you, instead of responding immediately, take one deep breath. In that breath, ask, what response would serve me best here? What response aligns with who I want to be? What response is most likely to create the outcome I actually want? Then choose your response from that centered place. This practice works everywhere. Your teenager rolls their eyes. Instead of snapping back, you pause and choose a response modeling emotional maturity. Your boss gives critical feedback. Instead of getting defensive, you pause and choose to listen for valuable information. Your partner brings up a sensitive topic. Instead of shutting down, you pause and choose to engage with curiosity and openness. Here's what most miss. This isn't about suppressing emotions or pretending you don't feel triggered. It's about feeling emotions fully while choosing responses consciously. You can feel angry and still choose to respond with dignity. You can feel hurt and still choose strength. You can feel frustrated and still choose patience. The Stoic philosopher Chrysippus used a perfect analogy. When a dog is tied to a cart, if it wants to follow, it is pulled and follows, making its spontaneous act coincide with necessity. But if the dog does not follow, it will be compelled in any case. The cart represents circumstances. They'll happen whether you like it or not. But you can choose to follow willingly with dignity or be dragged kicking and screaming. Start practicing with micro moments. When your phone buzzes, pause 1 second before looking. When someone asks a question, take a breath before answering. When you feel the urge to check social media, pause and ask if that's what you really want right now. These tiny practices build the muscle needed for bigger moments. Owning this space makes you incredibly powerful in relationships and challenging situations. People who react automatically are predictable and easily manipulated. People who respond consciously are centered, wise, and influential. Others trust your judgment because they see you don't make decisions from emotional reactivity. Drop this affirmation in the comments. I choose my response from wisdom, not from reaction. Number 7. Focus your circle of influence. Stop trying to change everyone else. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The best revenge is not to be like your enemy." Understanding that the most powerful way to create change isn't fighting what you oppose, but focusing energy on what you can positively influence. The 7th strategy involves identifying your circle of influence and directing all energy there, rather than wasting it on things beyond your control. Imagine 3 concentric circles. The innermost represents your direct control: thoughts, emotions, decisions, actions. The middle circle represents your influence, relationships, work environment, community impact. The outermost represents your concern, global politics, natural disasters, other people's choices, the past, the future. Most people spend most energy in that outer circle, feeling frustrated and powerless. Stoics focus on inner circles, where they can actually make a difference. Your circle of influence is larger than you think, but smaller than your circle of concern. You can't control company layoffs, but you can influence your organizational value by developing skills and building relationships. You can't control your teenagers' choices, but you can influence them through your example, availability, and the home environment you create. You can't control political outcomes, but you can influence your community through volunteering, voting, and modeling desired values. Stephen Covey, drawing from Stoic principles, observed, "As we focus on our circle of influence, it expands. As we focus on our circle of concern, it shrinks our circle of influence." This seems counterintuitive, but proves true. When you spend energy complaining about uncontrollable things, you become less effective at influencing what you can control. When you focus on your influence areas, that influence grows. Consider workplace frustration. You can spend energy complaining about management decisions, gossiping about colleagues, and feeling victimized by disagreeable policies. Or you can focus on your influence circle, being the colleague you want to work with, suggesting constructive solutions, building positive relationships, doing excellent work. The first approach makes you part of the problem and shrinks your influence. The second makes you part of the solution and expands your influence. Seneca understood deeply. Every change of fortune is a blessing or a curse, according to the use we make of it. He focused on how he could respond to circumstances rather than trying to control circumstances themselves. This made him one of Rome's most influential people, not through force or manipulation, but through wisdom and example. The key to expanding influence is starting small and building trust. When people see you focus on solutions rather than problems, take responsibility rather than make excuses, bring positive energy rather than drain it, they naturally want to give you more influence. They start asking your opinion, including you in decisions, looking to you for leadership. But here's what's crucial. You expand influence not by seeking it, but by being worthy of it. Stoics called this living according to virtue. When you consistently act with wisdom, justice, courage, and self-discipline, people notice. They may not think about it consciously, but they feel safer around you, trust your judgment more, and become more likely to be influenced by your example. This also works in reverse. When you stop trying to control things outside your influence circle, you free enormous amounts of mental and emotional energy. Consider how much time you spend worrying about news you can't influence, others' opinions you can't control, or past decisions you can't change. That energy could be redirected toward health, skills, relationships, contribution, areas where you can create positive change. Here's practical application. List everything currently stressing you. For each item, ask, is this in my circle of direct control, my circle of influence, or just my circle of concern? For concern items, practice acceptance and letting go. For influence items, identify one concrete action you can take. For direct control items, take immediate action. As Lao Tzu observed, the sage does not attempt anything very big and thus achieves greatness. Focus on what's immediately in front of you, do it with excellence, and watch your influence naturally expand. People notice competence, integrity, and consistency. They're drawn to those who focus on solutions, take ownership, and create positive change rather than just complaining about what's wrong. The beautiful irony, By focusing on a smaller circle, you create bigger impact. By trying to influence everything, you influence nothing. By focusing on genuine influence areas, you become someone worth listening to, following, trusting with greater responsibility. Number 8. Live according to your values. Be the person you respect. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts," but he understood something deeper. The quality of your thoughts depends upon the clarity of your values. The eighth and final strategy is the foundation making all others possible. Living according to your deepest values, regardless of external circumstances. This isn't about perfect moral behavior. It's about becoming authentically yourself. Most people live according to others' values without realizing it. They chase success as society defines it, seek approval from people whose opinions don't actually matter, and make decisions based on expectations rather than what truly matters to them. The result is a life that looks successful externally but feels empty internally. Stoics called this living according to opinion rather than according to nature. Epictetus, who experienced ultimate lack of external freedom as a slave, discovered something profound. No one can hurt you without your permission. He wasn't just talking about emotional hurt. He meant the deepest harm, which is being forced to betray your own values. When you know what you truly stand for, when you've clarified your deepest principles, no external circumstance can force you to act against your authentic self. Ask yourself these questions. What kind of person do you want to be, regardless of what you want to achieve? What principles would you want to be remembered for living by? What values would you teach a child who looked up to you? What matters so deeply that you would sacrifice comfort, convenience, or popularity to honor it? These aren't easy questions, but they're the most important you'll ever answer. Stoics identified 4 cardinal virtues, forming the foundation of meaningful life: wisdom, justice, courage, and temperance. But your personal values might be expressed differently, perhaps as authenticity, compassion, growth, service, creativity, or connection. Specific words matter less than deep reflection and conscious choice. What matters is identifying what truly matters to you, not what you think should matter or what others expect to matter. Viktor Frankl, drawing from concentration camp experience, wrote, "Everything can be taken from a man but one thing, the last of human freedoms, to choose one's attitude in any given set of circumstances." This is the ultimate Stoic insight. Your values, character, and choice of response cannot be taken unless you give them away. Here's where this becomes practical and powerful. When you're clear about values, decisions become easier. Should you take that higher-paying job requiring integrity compromises? Your values provide the answer. Should you stay in a comfortable but non-growing relationship? Your values guide you. Should you speak up about something important despite discomfort? Your values supply courage. But value-based living isn't always easy. Sometimes it means disappointing people, turning down opportunities, or facing criticism. Sometimes it means admitting you were wrong, making difficult changes, or standing alone. Seneca understood. Every new beginning comes from some other beginning's end. Living authentically often requires letting go of who others expect you to be, so you can become who you truly are. Value-based living creates what psychologists call intrinsic motivation. You're no longer dependent on external rewards or approval for fulfillment. When you act in alignment with deepest values, you experience satisfaction no external achievement can provide. You become what Stoics called self-sufficient, not because you don't need others, but because your sense of worth and direction comes from within. Here's practical application. Write down your top 5 values. For each, write a specific example of how you could live that value more fully this week. Then, before significant decisions, ask, which choice better honors my deepest values? Let values be your compass, especially when the path is unclear. This practice also transforms how you handle setbacks and failures. When something doesn't go as planned, instead of just feeling disappointed, ask, did I act according to my values? Did I bring my best self to this situation? If yes, you succeeded regardless of external outcome. If no, you have clear direction for improvement. As Maya Angelou observed, a man's character is his fate. Values shape character, and character shapes destiny. Not through magical thinking, but through practical reality. People of clear character make different choices, attract different opportunities, and create different outcomes than those who drift without clear principles. Stoics believed the only true success is becoming the person you were meant to be, living with virtue, wisdom, and authenticity regardless of external circumstances. This final strategy brings together all others, mastering what you control, maintaining perspective, using obstacles as growth opportunities, practicing gratitude, reflecting for continuous improvement, choosing conscious responses, focusing your influence, and grounding everything in your deepest values. These 8 Stoic strategies aren't just ancient philosophy. They're a blueprint for taking control of your life starting today. You now possess tools that have helped people navigate challenges, find meaning, and build resilience for over 2 millennia. The question isn't whether these strategies work. History has proven they do. The question is whether you'll use them. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself daily, confine yourself to the present. Right now, in this moment, you have a choice. You can close this video and return to old patterns of thinking and reacting, or you can choose one strategy and begin applying it immediately. You can continue letting external circumstances control your inner world, or you can start organizing your life from the inside out. Stoicism's beauty is that it works in silence. You don't need to announce your transformation or wait for perfect conditions. You can start mastering the dichotomy of control with your very next thought. You can practice the view from above with your current challenge. You can turn today's obstacles into tomorrow's strength. You can begin appreciating what you have before it's gone. Remember, these aren't concepts to understand. They're tools to use. Stoics were practical people needing practical solutions for real problems. They developed these strategies not in comfortable classrooms, but in life's arena, facing genuine hardship with wisdom and grace. Your life is waiting for you to take control of it. Not control of everything that happens to you. That's impossible. But control of who you become in response to what happens, that's completely within your power. Start today, start small, but most importantly, start. Before you go, hit that like button if this video has given you practical tools. Share it with someone who needs this message. Comment below which strategy resonates most with you, and subscribe because your journey to a more organized, purposeful life is just beginning. The ancient Stoics organized their lives in silence, built their character in private, and changed the world through their example. Now it's your turn. Drop this final affirmation in the comments. I choose to become the architect of my own life.